Alright, guys, welcome to episode 8 of Out of the Shadows. So, on today's episode, I'm going to talk about my journey, what led me to seek out self help, self care for my own mental health, what kind of pushed me beyond limits that I had, what got me here making these videos, really. So, I guess the way it started out for me, I was having a lot of issues. I was experiencing a lot of toxic people in my life, and it was definitely bleeding over into every aspect of my life. I would see certain people and they're like, man, you look really tired, stressed out, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wow, if there's physical manifestations of this is clearly not good. And so I had gotten to the point where I actually left the job I was working at and I moved in with my brother who lives out of state. I live in Illinois. He lives in Nevada. I went to stay with him. I was still extremely depressed, extremely anxious. However, he's the farthest thing from a toxic person in my life. Honestly, without him, I don't know who I would be. Without his influence in my life, without that stabilizing influence, without that support, he was a lot more like a parent to me than an older brother, which is quite shocking. He's 8 years older than me, which is not a small amount of time. But if you think about it, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old with a 10 and 11-year-old, 10 and 11 isn't an age where you're a parent. You're not thinking about, oh, I'm so happy for my little brother, or, oh, I love my little brother. It's more your kids. There's a different dynamic, typically speaking. So I was lucky enough to grow up with someone who supported me, who loved me, who watched out for me, who we never fought. I honestly, as I got older and I saw people fighting with their siblings, fist fighting, arguing, getting mad at each other, I really thought, I was like, wow, these people are weird. Like, this is messed up. Like, who does that? But it took me a long time to realize we were the weird ones. Most brothers would fight and disagree and get angry and argue over stuff, and we didn't do that. Like I said, it was a lot more of a parental type relationship. He was the parent, I was the child. He took care of me. He watched out for me. I'm extremely lucky to have had that in my life, and still have him as a support system. Even though now that we're adults, in a lot of ways, I still feel that way sometimes. But it's grown to the point of, obviously, I'm 32 years old, so now he's 40 if you did the math. We're both adults. We both respect each other. We both have different opinions and different lives. Anyway, getting back to the main point of the story. So I had moved in with him. I was in a very bad place emotionally. And my brother is very much into jiu-jitsu. He had a tournament coming up, and he asked me if I would go with him. Now, he asked me in front of my sister-in-law, his wife, obviously, and I felt kind of put on the spot. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to say no because I would feel ashamed if I said no. So I was just like, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. Now, in reality, I'm super depressed. I'm super anxious because these things are so bad, because I'm in such a bad state. My social anxiety is off the charts. The idea of going and seeing this tournament and being out in the crowd with pretty much nobody I know, or maybe people I've met once or twice, was horrifying. I mean, my heart would race. I was scared. All the physical symptoms of anxiety, extremely depressed, all these horrible thoughts of, oh my God, what's going to happen? What are people going to think of me? They're going to see that I'm depressed and think I'm weird and all this stuff, and I'm not going to be able to handle it. It's early in the morning, and of course, like most people, well, I shouldn't say most people, but at least for me and many people, all I want to do when I'm depressed is sleep. So a tournament that starts at 8 a.m., we have to be there at 8 in the morning, even if I have to get up at 7 in the morning, especially at that time, was horrifying. I was like, oh my God, I'm barely going to sleep. I'm going to feel worse than normal, which at that time, wow, the prospect of feeling worse than I usually did was pretty scary. So what ended up happening, time went on, and I started to kind of try and feel my way around the situation, and honestly kind of back out, which I'm not proud of, but it's not an excuse. But the reality was, as I said, I was in a very bad place. I was very scared. I was very depressed. I wasn't operating the way I would operate now. And I ended up making up kind of a lame excuse and saying that I was going to have a therapy session with my psychiatrist over the phone, and that I wouldn't be able to go to the tournament. Now, I didn't tell him that until the day before the tournament. Again, that's another knock against me. That's not right. That's not good. It's not how you should handle a relationship, especially with someone you really love and care about. The next day rolls around. I wake up, come out in the front room, and he said to me that he was very upset and disappointed that I wasn't taking his feelings into consideration, that I kind of just blew it off, which was true. And it wasn't intentional on my part. I was too caught up in my own mess, but he was right. So I instantly start crying. I'm bawling. I feel so terrible. I've already, when you're depressed, you tell yourself you're an awful person. And to know that I let someone down that meant that much to me, it broke my heart. It devastated me to my very core. It, to me at the time, confirmed all those horrible things I was thinking. I was like, wow, I am terrible. I am awful. Look what I did. I couldn't do this for him. What's wrong with me? So he kind of brought some harsh truths to my attention. He told me I needed to stop dwelling on the negativity. I needed to start focus on being positive. I was free from the stress of my environment back home. I needed to acknowledge that and accept that. Now, the problem was he was saying all this in a very aggressive way. He was taking the tough love approach. He didn't want me to be stuck in not taking action and kind of think it was okay to just sort of lull myself into this comfort of being depressed, or this simple out, shall we say. And in retrospect, we've discussed it. We've gotten past it. It's not like it's some, oh my God, we're still talking about this and we don't have the same relationship. It's not like that at all. We both agreed. I was like, you know what? I should have thought about your feelings. I really apologize. And he in turn was like, you know what? I probably came at you a little bit too hard. That's not the kind of person you are. I'm sorry that it went down that way. So we got past it. We talked it through, which is great. I'm grateful for him. I'm grateful for other friends and people in my life who can have adult conversations, and there doesn't need to be some big fight. So anyway, what that I don't want to call it a fight. So I'd say what that situation did was it really made me stop and think about, all right, so I'd often, of course, as a child and even up until adulthood in many ways, I idolized my brother. And I mean that quite literally. I don't just mean that, I looked up to him. No, in my mind, there was this version of him that wasn't real. Like, I viewed him almost as a god. He could do no wrong. Whatever he said was correct. I should be following that advice. I should be like him. I was trying to be an extension of him. This disagreement, or however we want to deem it, made me realize I need to become my own person. I need to find out, who am I? What do I value? What's right in my mind? So I decided to come back home. I spoke to my boss through email. Great guy, took me back with open arms. I'd been home for a month, maybe 2 at the most. And my boss, who I had known since I was 19 years old, I was 30 at the time. He was a mentor, he was a friend, he was a father figure. He was actually out of the country on vacation, and he was playing golf. 62 years old, I believe, maybe 63. And he died of a heart attack on the last hole. It was a really intense experience, to say the least. I'm sure even my mannerisms are expressing that right now. But, I was shocked in a lot of ways. I didn't know what to do. I was obviously super upset. This was a man who was pivotal in shaping who I was, who I've become. And to lose someone like that this is the first time for me anyway that I'd lost anyone that close to me, this important of a relationship. And at the same time, it was very unhealthy in the sense that there were a lot of people at my work who had known him for 20, 30, 40 years, literally. I'm not even exaggerating. He had family who worked there, and I was just telling myself, wow, what right do I have to feel so bad? What right do I have to be this affected by this, to be taking time off of work, to be, it's interfering with every level of my life. And it didn't seem like there were so many people who knew him better. Why should I feel this way? But invalidating my feelings like that, telling me I didn't have a right to them, telling myself I didn't have a right to grieve, essentially was very unhealthy. And I'm going to talk about later as well. Don't invalidate your feelings. It's not a matter of gradation, who's more privileged, not privileged, who's more entitled to feel this way, who has worse problems, da 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 da. It's not about that. If you have these feelings, if you feel bad about something, whether it's the loss of a person, whether it's your own depression you're struggling with, it doesn't have to be, oh, well, my problem needs to be bigger than theirs, or I can't feel that way. That's not how it works. Beating yourself up and telling yourself, well, everyone else has it worse, why should I feel like this? It's not helpful. That's the opposite of helpful. It's gonna make you worse. So now with both my boss and my brother, the best way that I've been able to verbalize this is they were pillars in my life. My brother was the pillar holding me up in my personal life. I looked to him for advice. I looked to him for support. I looked to him for how should I handle a situation. My boss in my professional life kept me going. If I needed time off because I was depressed or I was experiencing intense anxiety, he was always there to tell me it was okay. Do what you need to do. I've got your back. He picked me up when I fell down, and that was huge. Again, these metaphorical pillars were holding me up. I was at the time I needed the help, and I was leaning on both of them. So now my boss has passed away, so that's gone. There's no one to really tell me it's okay and have my back with work. I have to be more consistent. I have to rely on myself. And my brother is still there, but now we have this different dynamic. And all of a sudden, I can't look to him as this all-knowing God who's going to tell me how to live my life. So all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my God, I have to stand on my own. I don't know how to do that. At 31 years old, or 30 rather, I'm sorry. Truthfully, I didn't know how to do that. And it horrified me. I've just lost someone extremely close to me. Again, it was the first time losing someone I had a relationship like that with. And I didn't know what to do. I went into an extremely deep depression. And luckily, I was seeing my therapist regularly. I had a psychiatrist. The therapy sessions helped, but it was very tough. I had to go through some very intense therapy. I had to not only look at the loss of my friend, my mentor, I had to look at where certain feelings came from. Why was I relying on others so much to kind of lead me through life? And luckily, I was able to come out of that. It took about a year. Yeah, a year of intense therapy, training, whatever you want to call it. In my opinion, I think it's really a matter of finding a balance between someone who calls themselves or is seen as a self-help guru and being someone who's more associated with psychology or philosophy. You need to find a healthy balance between the two. So a self-help guru to me focuses on motivation, promoting belief in oneself, as well as one's business or goals or projects, whatever you're pursuing. Very many of them in very many self-help books, they read like a how-to as to how can you be successful, what's the fastest way. A psychologist or philosopher, on the other hand, they focus a lot more on taking care of your mental health. There's often a spiritual aspect, or they may promote spiritual practices like meditation and yoga. It's very much about validating your feelings and accepting yourself. As I said, really, it's either to the extreme can be destructive. If you have one to the extreme, you're constantly chasing growth and how you can be better, how you can be stronger. And often you get so caught up with it that you burn yourself out, you overexert yourself, you forget to take the time to rest and realize that, yes, you need to achieve things. Yes, you need to have goals. You need to achieve those goals and work at those goals. But you need to have time to relax and calm down as well. If, on the other hand, you take the psychologist or philosopher to the extreme, there can be too much of a passive attitude. You become a little bit too accepting of your limitations and forget, when should I challenge these? When should I push to further and broaden my horizons? That's not to say that you always should push. Like I said, it's still a balance. So again, in my mind, it's a successful union of the two. So what's my opinion on healing? How do you get better? How do you come out of these, mental health crises? I think that it's very much an individualized thing. And what a lot of people forget is maintaining your mental health is a consistent practice. It's just like maintaining your physical health in the same way that you can't just do one push-up or go to the gym for a week and be like, all right, now I'm good. Now I can go run a marathon and I'm healthier and I've lost weight and all that stuff. It doesn't work that way. You have to consistently do that. You have to start small and build upon those things to get to that level you want to be. It's much the same with mental health. You can't just go to one therapy session. You can't read one self-help book. You can't attend a seminar or any small level. You can't just do one thing and expect to be like, all right, well now I'm good, I'm fine, I'm cured. And cured isn't really a word that's used in mental health, and I agree with that. Typically, you're never quote unquote cured. You still deal with these things on some level usually, but it's a matter of being able to manage the stress, to manage the depression, the anxiety, whatever it might be. So as I said, it's a regular practice. You need to set goals and meet those goals. You need to decide, all right, well, this week I'm going to do yoga 3 times a week, or I'm going to meditate this day, or I'm going to read this book. And as you get better and better, you decide, well, I'm going to do meditation, yoga, and read. I'm going to do it these 3-4 days, and you do it consistently. You build a habit, and that's how you get towards being better, essentially. In my opinion, it takes an eclectic approach to get better, meaning that you have to go with more than one model of psychology. You're not even talking about self-help, just psychologically, what therapists you see, whoever you might work with. One of the most popular ones is CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. You need to change your thoughts and your behaviors. There's another one that's less popular that I really enjoyed, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. It's essentially determining the language of your brain. How do you think about things? How do your emotions come about? For me, I'm visual. Often when I was depressed, I would visualize myself failing. I would see myself losing at the situation, metaphorically. I'd beat myself before I started. Conversely, when you learn that language, you can start to think, all right, well, why don't I kind of visualize myself succeeding at this and doing well? Or at the very least, don't project forward and stay in the moment. The last thing I would say is don't ever tell yourself, I could have it worse. While that's true, I don't think that's always helpful. I think what that does, it invalidates our feelings. It makes us feel bad for feeling bad, if that makes sense. You don't feel that you have a right to feel this way. So many people have it worse. There's someone who's homeless. There are people who have terminal illnesses and physical limitations and all these things. Like, why do I feel so bad? What right do I have to this? This doesn't make sense. And now you're beating yourself up. You're telling yourself, I don't have a right to feel this way. Again, you're working against yourself. It's not a matter of who has it worse or who has it better. Everyone's feelings matter, and it's all valid. What's important to you is important to you. What's important to the next guy is important to him. It's subjective. My problems are here for me. Someone else's problems are here for them. Maybe my problems are, oh my God, I need to make $100. Maybe somebody else's, I'm going to lose my business. I need $1 million. It goes all over the place. It varies from person to person. So always think about that and keep in mind that you have a right to your feelings. You have a right to feel the way you feel. Find the people in your life who will support you, who will talk you through it, who will offer ideas, and also let you just talk and vent and not offer advice sometimes. Sometimes you don't want to be told how to fix it. Sometimes you just want to kind of throw it out there and have people just be in your corner. You don't want to hear, well, this is how I should do it. You always want to know, all right, this person supports me. So that'll be it for this week, guys. I hope this was helpful. Again, I'm trying to vary my approach and how I make these. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please ask questions. Please leave comments. Tell me what you think could be improved upon. Offer me ideas for future videos. All that good stuff. All right, I will see you guys next week, and have a great week until then.